Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. QB coach Mike Sullivan could be retained by Mike Tomlin regardless of OC, Dulac says. That's what Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette speculated recently, yet in the past day or two it seems his tone has changed a bit. After all, let's start with the practicalities of the matter. What are Sullivan's options if he doesn't get an offensive coordinator job? And how likely is he to get one? I wouldn't say very. Sullivan could be retained as the team's quarterback coach because he has a good relationship with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, Dulac noted in his most recent article. That seems rather more positive than when he said just a day or two earlier that it was unlikely he would stay. He also addressed it in his latest chat session when talking about the theoretical influence of a new offensive coordinator. He wrote that it would be up to head coach Mike Tomlin, in all likelihood, which assistant coaches remain. That could happen with QB coach Mike Sullivan. Indeed, I see no reason that wouldn't happen unless he does get an offensive coordinator job, which I consider unlikely. He's not exactly the prototype for what teams are looking for these days. For one thing, he's about to turn 57 years old. Most candidates are decades younger, or close enough. The Steelers do seem to like Sullivan as their quarterback's coach, and he has now been in the job for 3 years. That's what he's done for a good chunk of his career. He's been in the NFL for 20 years and has only spent 4 as a coordinator. He had been out of the league for 2 years when Tomlin hired him. Of course, it does depend on what happens with the offensive coordinator position. The Steelers may not give unilateral staffing control to their next coordinator, but it may be a pragmatic change to fit a new system. And they will likely be open to suggestions, given how crucial this hire is. It's not uncommon for coaches who serve in interim roles after an in-season firing to return to their prior roles the next season. And Sullivan didn't have his official title changed. The Steelers just added play-calling responsibilities to his plate. Tomlin named running backs coach Eddie Faulkner the interim coordinator, not him. So I'm not sure how awkward it all is. Perhaps we'll see based on the level of seriousness he attracts in these interviews. Will Mike Mitchell be back in Pittsburgh on Steelers coaching staff? The fate of the Steelers coaching staff remains unclear at this point. Obviously, there will be a new offensive coordinator in the near future. There are reports that they are working on retaining Terrell Austin as defensive coordinator. The rest is up in the air, including the fate of those who recently shared the offensive coordinator responsibilities. Quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan took over play-calling responsibilities after Matt Canada was fired. Now he is reportedly interviewing for outside offensive coordinator jobs. One coach we know will be gone is assistant defensive backs coach Gerald Alexander. He is reportedly joining Antonio Pierce's new staff with the Las Vegas Raiders to coach their safeties. That means Pittsburgh figures to be in the market for a replacement. So why not a former Steelers safety to do the job? There is one freshly on the market. Mike Mitchell was not retained as assistant defensive backs coach by the Indianapolis Colts, so he is a free agent coach. Mitchell signed with the Steelers as a 6th-year veteran in 2014 on a 5-year, $25 million deal. By their standards, it was a big, splash move. He played 4 years before being cut, spending his final season in the league with the Colts. Incidentally, he has already described an opportunity to coach for Mike Tomlin on the Steelers staff an honor. That's always a good place to start. And Tomlin said when they were playing Indianapolis last season that he was still in regular contact. Tomlin has always been known as a player's coach, and his coaches always seem to like him as well. Why not put the two together? He does have a number of former players who have entered the coaching profession, like William Gay, though none currently on his own staff. Who knows? Maybe Hines Ward will also come back to Pittsburgh this offseason to coach the wide receivers. The Steelers' 2023 season has been put out of its misery, ending as so many have before in recent years, a disappointing, blowout playoff loss. The only change-up lately is when they miss the playoffs altogether. But with the Buffalo Bills stamping them out in the wild-card round, they have another long offseason to look forward to. The biggest question hanging over the team is the quarterback question. Is Kenny Pickett the guy? Will he get another season's reprieve without a serious challenge? How will the team address the depth chart? Do they re-sign Mason Rudolph, one of few significant unrestricted free agents? The Steelers are swirling with more questions this offseason than usual, frankly, though the major free agent list is less substantial than usual. It's just a matter of, what happens next? Where do they go from here? How do they find the way forward? Former Rams coach gets interview with Steelers. Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean Mcvay is one of the most influential coaches in football. The offense is an offshoot of San Francisco 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan's scheme, but continues to take its unique shape and innovate every season. The success has followed, and with that comes other teams poaching the brightest names on his staff. Defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, quarterbacks coach Zach Robinson, and assistant special teams coach Jeremy Springer have all received interviews for promotions around the league. They're unsurprisingly highly regarded in the building, too. Mcvay went as far as to say any coaching change would be a result of a promotion. However, Los Angeles's impact on this year's coaching carousel extends beyond the 2023 staff. On Wednesday, the Pittsburgh Steelers interviewed Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown. Brown isn't a popular candidate given the lack of success in his only season as an NFL offensive coordinator. The Panthers, ushering in the first overall pick, quarterback Bryce Young, face-planted, and head coach Frank Reich was hired halfway through the season. Essentially a lame-duck coordinator for much of the year, Carolina finished 29th in expected points added per play and 30th in success rate. Needless to say, he won't be returning. However, Brown shouldn't be discounted as a serious offensive coordinator candidate. For one, the Panthers were set up to fail. Young may or may not be viable as a starting quarterback, but the supporting cast regressed mightily. Young's short stature plays a role in what can be called, and it felt like defenses were teeing off on an offense that was constantly behind the sticks. Furthermore, Brown's history with Mcvay is enticing. Carrying over a similar scheme isn't guaranteed to find success, but should bode well for Pittsburgh's run game, which head coach Mike Tomlin is happy to rely on. Brown wasn't just a position coach, though. He made the leap from a collegiate running backs coach, 8 years for 6 schools, to the Rams staff. He took on the same role in Los Angeles, before adding assistant head coach to his resume in 2021. The next year, he was the assistant head coach and the tight end coach. Mcvay promoting him to assistant head coach could be seen as a nod for his future job prospects, and it worked, even if his first stop wasn't successful. If any single-year coordinator deserves a second chance, one with the belief of the game's elite and the track record to match should garner consideration. And you fan, what do you think of the Sean Mcvay situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.